Hello, and thank you for joining the first webinar in the Tribal Courts and Traditional Justice webinar series brought to you by the Tribal Law and Policy Institute in collaboration with our Tribal Training and Technical Assistance partners and funded by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Today's webinar is titled Promising Strategies in Tribal State Intergovernmental Collaboration and will be presented by Kori, who is a consultant with TLPI and is a retired judge. She has worked in the 9th Judicial District in Itasca County, Minnesota, and is a former Leech Lake Tribal Court judge. My name is Chantel Cloud, and I'm a Tribal Court Collaboration Specialist with the Tribal Law and Policy Institute. If we could advance to the disclaimer slide. Thank you. This webinar is funded by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, or BJA, which is a component of the Office of Justice Programs, and all of the points of views or opinions expressed today are solely ours and do not represent the official position or policies of the U.S. Department of Justice. I will now turn it over to Kori to introduce herself and begin the presentation.
Bonjour, good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time it is where you are when you're watching this webinar. It's really good to be here with you today, and I just wanted to introduce myself quickly and also tell you that I'm Sibikwat, I'm Fish Clan, and I'm Cree, and it's really an honor to be here today to share some of the promising strategies and practices that are being used by jurisdictions around the country who are forging the way with these collaborative justice programs. We're hoping that we can have the following learning objectives that you'll come away with after you watch this webinar today. We hope that you'll come away with the deeper knowledge of intergovernmental collaboration and the benefits for tribal communities that come from that collaboration. Also, that you'll be able to explore successful examples of intergovernmental collaboration that address systemic challenges effectively, and also identify practical steps that participants can take to implement collaborative models in their own communities. Why does intergovernmental collaboration matter to begin with? First of all, it provides jurisdictional clarity. Collaborative frameworks really can help to reduce jurisdictional confusion, especially where state authority has been expanded in Indian country. Also, resources and expertise sharing can really be maximized with intergovernmental collaboration. Tribal courts and state courts can collaborate by pooling their resources and sharing expertise to create effective solutions. Also, they help to build cultural respect and trust. Partnerships can foster trust and respect for cultural traditions and also promote our healing-centered justice approaches. And finally, they strengthen government relations. Coordinated strategies move beyond silos and help improve government-to-government relationships and community outcomes. Some of the benefits of collaboration include reducing recidivism and providing more family support. The joint efforts lead to lower recidivism rates and enhanced family preservation through supportive programs. And so there's a lot of, in those areas for family support and that recidivism, you can really see a lot of benefits. Another benefit is cultural competency and justice. And this increases cultural awareness and it promotes healing-centered justice that respects our cultural traditions and addresses systemic issues. And finally, innovative shared solutions are another benefit. When we are able to pool resources and problem solve jointly, it really enables us to have innovative approaches to substance misuse and bail reform issues as well. Core themes across programs. Each one of these programs has demonstrated several different areas of themes that have emerged or their practice. One of these themes is judicial leadership. Judges in each one of these programs act as catalysts for change by leading stakeholder collaboration and guiding program planning efforts. They also integrate culture. All of these programs honor tribal traditions while integrating evidence-based practices to ensure cultural relevance and respect. They also have healing-centered justice. The focus in these programs shifts from punishment to restoration by addressing trauma and fostering resilience within each one of the communities where these programs exist. And finally, the programs are adaptable. They evolve through ongoing evaluation and adaptation to local community needs for sustained success. Each one of the programs is a little bit different and is geared for what local needs have shown are most helpful and appropriate in that area. Promising practices that have come out of this are intergovernmental cooperation. Each one of the programs emphasizes respectful cooperation between governments to build strong, lasting partnerships. They show cultural compatibility. Each one of the initiatives aligns with community values and traditions to ensure that they're accepted and relevant in their communities. They're sustainable and replicable. Each one of the programs is designed to be sustainable and adaptable beyond the initial funding periods, which is crucial, especially in times when resources are limited. We need to show this sustainability so that we can continue on and these programs are sustainable. And finally, they show fairness and effective management. There's fair treatment and clear accountability structures in each one of the programs, and this helps to ensure success and trust. So let's talk a little bit more and see what this intergovernmental collaboration looks like in actual practice. The first program that we'd like to take a look at here is the Kenichi Indian Tribe's Hanu Community Wellness Court. It's a joint jurisdictional court. It's a therapeutic court that's operated by the Kenichi Indian Tribe and the state of Alaska court system. It serves adults who face cases stemming from substance misuse, and that includes families who are involved with CHINO or Children in Need of Aid cases, who reside within the tribe's service area. The Hanu Community Wellness Court is a 4-phase healing program. It includes phases that emphasize holistic healing, trust, belonging, living well, and rest restorative. Those are their phases. It's also culturally informed with its treatment approach. Each of the participants receives substance misuse treatment, mental health support, and cultural activities to promote sobriety and family reunification. They also strengthen their communities. And the Hanu Community Wellness Court has really shown how this collaboration can transform lives and strengthens communities using evidence-based, culturally tailored practices. The next program is the Yurok Tribe and Hupa Family Wellness Courts. This is another joint tribal state jurisdiction program, and it's a family wellness court operating with tribal and state judges presiding jointly to address family welfare issues. It also demonstrates cultural respect and family unity. The court emphasizes cultural respect and promotes family unity through integrating tribal traditions. And really, this is another example of how those traditions are interwoven throughout the entire program. They show comprehensive support services, and the courts provide comprehensive support as alternatives to traditional dependency proceedings. And they have a collaborative healing approach. This partnership demonstrates collaboration that promotes healing and reduces systemic disparities in families. And it's shown to be very successful. Another program along this spectrum of joint jurisdiction programs is the St. Regis Mohawk Bail Reform Initiative. This is a collaborative bail reform project, and the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe partnered with local courts to reduce pretrial detention disparities for tribal members. It provides fair access to bail, ensuring that there's equitable bail access and promoting alternatives to incarceration for just outcomes. Cultural and sovereignty respect is shown through this program. And the culturally informed practices are upholding tribal sovereignty while enhancing justice through intergovernmental cooperation. And finally, they provide targeted community solutions. The St. Regis Mohawk Bail Reform Initiative highlights the needed interventions that they've shown in their local area that are tailored to specific community needs within a collaborative framework. So this is one more example of collaborative justice and how this can work along that spectrum. And then we also have the Tribal State Equal Work Group in the state of Maine. And this collaboration is truly a tribal state partnership Maine's Equal Work Group united tribal and state leaders to enhance protections for Native children and families. The work groups promotes equal compliance and adherence to the Indian Child Welfare Act, not only the letter of the law, but also the spirit of the law, by ensuring that there are legal protections and cultural respect. It provides cultural preservation and family integrity. This program prioritizes the cultural preservation and family integrity, which strengthens community bonds and child welfare outcomes. And finally, it advances systemic child welfare reform. Intergovernmental partnerships foster systemic change in child welfare practices through mutual understanding. In this program, they come together and they're really able to work through these issues and to really raise up ways that they can ensure that the Indian Child Welfare Act is being followed, as well as strengthening these bonds and improving outcomes. So this is another example of interjurisdictional working. Then we also have the Resiliency Court. And the Resiliency Court provides trauma-informed judicial training. It uses brain science and motivational interviewing techniques to create a trauma-informed judicial decision-making program and process. It's shown systemic structural changes, and the program's led to changes that include appointing a tribal judge as a magistrate in the state system, which is one of the first times that this has been done, where we have those cross-jurisdictional appointments. It also has practices that build resilience. It embeds this resilience building process into all of the court operations to improve outcomes for vulnerable children and families. And finally, it's a great example of intergovernmental collaboration. The partnerships that have developed between government entities with the Resiliency Court drives this systemic transformation in child welfare cases, really bringing all of the views to the table to build this resiliency and to promote better outcomes. So if you're looking at starting a joint jurisdiction program or collaborative justice program in your community, where do you start? That's the big question so many people are wondering about, is where do they even begin? So if you're looking at implementing an interjurisdictional program such as this, you need to ask yourself, how do you heal your whole community? What are some of the benefits in the long run of working together? And also, where can you save money? What are the cost savings across all of your justice partners and systems? And you also can look at how you're already collaborating within agencies and across jurisdictions. This is a great place to start because you may already have these collaborations in place that you can build on to start these joint jurisdiction and intergovernmental collaboration programs. So if you're exploring how to establish an intergovernmental collaboration, this is where you need to start. So when you're looking at this, a great place to start is to have collaborative meetings of community stakeholders convened by judges. That's so key to bring everybody together right from the beginning. You need to identify your stakeholder expectations, what those values are, the feedback, and what everyone has to bring to the table, and clarify what those expectations are. We also need to be infusing culture and incorporating best practices in all of these programs. And it really helps with that as a foundation to have someone to come in to help. It really helps to have a neutral outside facilitator that can guide some 3 to 4 on-site meetings, each that last 2 to 3 days consecutively, so that you have an extended period of time to work together to find out where everyone starts in these programs, what it is that they're hoping to get from this. It also is really helpful to start with mapping the current system. Often, all of the players in a system don't really know exactly how cases flow through the system. So it really helps to start to find out what the current system looks like and where there are touch points or places where you can collaborate. You can also create and formalize agreements, and that can be anything from communication to how cases are going to come in. It's whatever works for you on a local level. When you're getting started, it also helps to have ground rules. We need to ensure that everyone has a voice in that planning process. A lot of times you'll have judges, and a lot of times people will look to the judges to kind of lead the way. And people sometimes when they come to the table, don't feel comfortable speaking up. And it helps to have these ground rules to really make sure that everyone has a voice in planning these joint jurisdiction intergovernmental collaboration programs. You also need to spend time identifying service gaps and opportunities to create new services. When you map the system, as we just suggested, really that's going to help you identify some of these areas where there are service gap or overlaps and maybe duplication of services. And really it can even create new opportunities for completely new services when you're coming together like that. So this is a good sort of roadmap for how you can establish intergovernmental collaboration. When you're having collaborative meetings, it's really key to several of these aspects, that the judges are co-equal partners from very different systems. And I think that's as a starting place for the judges coming together. And when these programs are talking about creating an interjurisdictional collaboration, this is so key that the judges are co-equal. And so they need to come together, and you're bringing both systems together to create a safety net. And so it's very important that the judges are co-equal partners. And really, you're forging collaboration between governments. And so you're bringing all of the tools from the state system, all of the tools from the tribal system, and you're building those collaborations between the governments and bringing all the tools that both systems have. It's also crucial to establish these face-to-face relationships. And that way you can have mutual understanding, trust, and respect that can be developed. But really, we're more comfortable talking with someone that we know. And so that's why these face-to-face relationships are so key. Because the better you know someone, the better you're going to trust and understand and respect them. Another key to these collaborative meetings is that there needs to be safe, open, and inclusive environment to share ideas. If everyone doesn't feel comfortable opening up, then there's so many good ideas that may not come to the table. So it's really important to have a safe, open environment where people feel comfortable speaking up. And also focusing on common goals is really a key thing in joint court design. Because when we look through the lens of common goals, there's so many more areas that we can find that we can work together for collaboration. So it's important to really stay focused on what those common goals are for each system as your system takes shape. Going back to one of the first things that we need to do when we're having these collaborative meetings to put together our interjurisdictional courts, we need to map out those services. But there are some key aspects to mapping that are really important to keep in mind. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. Each system is going to have a broad array of existing services that you want to build on and make those stronger by coming together. So find out what you have and build on that. Also, it's important to communicate about what you need from one another and to infuse culture and best practices into each one of the services and everything that you're looking as you map the services. Because if there's something that you're not aware of that the other system needs from your system, then you can't address those issues. So it's really important to have those open conversations. You also, in mapping, need to identify where service gaps exist. There may be underutilized services that are out there, and there may be opportunities to create new services. So that's a real key to take a look at when you're identifying and mapping what services you have. And I like this last one, don't be afraid to try something new. I think that's the key, is that we have, sometimes we try to do things over and over again the same way, and it's not successful because we need to branch out and try something different. And when we're creating interjurisdictional collaboration, it really is something new that you're bringing both systems together. So you need to be not afraid to try something new and to branch out. One way that systems can come together to create better outcomes is through a peacemaking procedure. Some of the courts use this type of peacemaking procedure in their programs. And these procedures include talking circles, sentencing circles, healing circles, and elder boards. So these are different areas and different approaches to peacemaking that you'll see in these joint jurisdiction collaborative programs. So let's look at a talking circle first. A talking circle can be used in cases where consensus is needed prior to a case being adjudicated. One benefit of a talking circle is it's for clients, it's their choice to come to this. And so when they come to this, really, it's very empowering. And it puts everybody that's in that circle on equal footing with everyone else in the circle. And that really is an empowering thing to help people to speak up, because everyone comes together as an equal with an equal voice. All voices are heard in talking circles. It creates equality and ultimately buy-in. And that's what's needed for cases to be successful. You need everyone to be buying in. And so the talking circles used in some of these programs are great ways to be able to address some of these issues. Sentencing circles are another form of peacemaking. And these are used to build sentencing guidelines that a court could use to adopt in criminal and juvenile cases. So it's not just for adult, it will also apply for juveniles as well. It can occur after a plea or verdicts are entered. And participants can include defendants. You could have community representatives participate in sentencing circles. If you have medicine people or other culture bearers, they can also come to participate in that sentencing circle. You have your prosecutors, probation officers, family members of both the victims and also the offenders. We have victims that come to sentencing circles and their representatives. There can also be other approved professionals that will participate in these sentencing circles. And out of this comes a sentencing order that includes considerations for both the victim, the community, and the defendant. So really, these sentencing circles take everyone into consideration when crafting what that sentence will be for an adult or a juvenile. The next type of peacemaking is healing circles. And the goal in healing circles is to really bring understanding, contentment, and a way to move forward in a way that for the subject is positive. We're trying to heal. And it seeks to give a detailed explanation of what the court has decided. Oftentimes, courts make decisions and people that appear in front of them don't really understand what's happened. And so this is a great opportunity so that everyone comes away understanding what a court has decided. It also gives participants time and space to process the things that led to the current situation. Because a lot of times, especially when there's been trauma in someone's past, we hear that people act in or act out. And so really it gives time to get to the root causes and to really process that, to find out what led to that current situation. What are the underlying causes? The participants that may take part in the healing circle could include not only the person that's seeking the healing, but also professionals who have been assigned to the case, and even community partners can come together to create this healing circle to really have better outcomes. And then finally, we have elder boards that are used by interjurisdictional programs. An elder board involves community elders as the lead decision makers in all of these programs and what happens on the board. The elder board hears cases and offers advice to the court for its orders. It doesn't craft sentencing orders itself, but the board or other agreements for the court, but it makes these suggestions and provides advice to the court for the orders. And it's a tool that can be used in a lot of types of cases. And I think that an elder board is a great example of a way that you can really infuse that culture that we talked about and traditions in these programs, because you can look to your elders for cultural norms and traditions that the court can look at for creating the solutions and orders or other agreements that come out of these cases. So it's a great advice for the court and for other participants in these programs. When we talk about effective leadership, I love this quote. Judge Garrell from Mohawk, she said that we see a problem and we work on it both at the local level and on the forum. It's these relationships that make creative breakthroughs like their program, and we're talking about their bail reform program, possible. It's important to start small, think big, and don't give up. I can't emphasize that enough. Start small, think big, and don't give up. Silos can be an incredible obstacle when we're trying to create any kind of a collaboration. And that can be not only with outside justice partners, but internally. So it's important that we work on breaking down silos to be successful with these programs. As Judge Anna Moran from the Kenai Superior Court said of the Hanu Healing court, their wellness court. She said that the Hanu Wellness Court is a prime example of how two entities with similar goals can blend their unique talents to solve a community problem. By working together, the two courts have been able to provide a joint jurisdiction wellness court to all members of our community, both Native and non-Native. We've been able to blend the more formal organizational style of the state court with the more informal tribal court model. All participants have been able to take advantage of services offered by both the Kenaitze Indian tribe and the state of Alaska. And I love this quote. Judge Moran really hit the nail on the head with this, because really you're creating those safety nets. And so it's all of the services that both systems can provide really come together in these programs, and you're able to break down silos between systems. There's many lessons that have been learned from these first interjurisdictional collaborative programs. And so when we talk about having our collaborative meetings in your wellness court teams, some of the lessons learned, including that we need to be patient, we need to be flexible, we need to be adaptable. And things change. And so a lot of times we need to realize that there's going to be problems or issues that come up along the way. And so we need to work together and be flexible to come up with new solutions and adaptable to changing circumstances. We also need to take time to listen. And this is so key, not only to the people that appear in front of court, to take time to listen to the people that we deal with in court, but to take time to listen to each other in these collaborative meetings. Because if someone feels like they're being listened to and being heard, they're more likely to give you good input on what these programs should look like and how the team should be developed. So take that time and keep an open mind. We need to be infusing culture and incorporate best practices. Oftentimes these are separate, and they're kept separate. We have our best practices that are out there, and we have our cultural approaches, but really we're infusing and incorporating both of those in these programs together. So that's really important to keep in mind. And also that local needs are going to determine what the structure is going to look like, not only the structure of the court itself, but the court-connected services. Because every jurisdiction is going to be different in terms of the resources that they have, the number of people that they're serving, and what they have to work with. So really the local needs are going to determine what these look like. And again, you need to have a strong facilitator, because sometimes it really takes someone coming in from outside that can bridge the gap and bring people together to be able to overcome any obstacles that may come up along the way. So having that facilitator is really a key. And it's really, really important to remember to not give up when you're trying to create these collaborations. Change is hard. Collaboration team members, we're all helpers. All of us come into this, or many of us at least, come into this with our own histories of trauma. And so we need to acknowledge that, we need to own it, and we need to work on it and be aware of that. Because sometimes the things that we're experiencing in our own histories can create barriers unintentionally. So we just need to be aware of that. And when we're aware of it, it makes a lot easier to just own that and work on it and be able to work through these issues. Keep in mind that systems don't collaborate, people collaborate. We are the system. And so everything that we bring in, everything that the lens of our personal experiences, we all see things differently through that personal lens. And so it's important to keep in mind that we as people are collaborating. We make up the system. So keep that in mind when we're trying to come together. And again, to stay focused on why we've come together and what those common goals are. Because when we're focused on common goals, when barriers do come up, it's much easier to get to overcome any obstacles or to come up with creative solutions when you're staying focused on common goals. So let's talk now about some tips for success. When you're trying to develop any kind of a collaboration between governments, it's going to start with relationships. Start with the relationships between two or more people. And sometimes it can just be the judges to start off with. But the key here is that they have common goals. And so when you're working towards common goals, it makes a lot easier to come together and to stay focused when things may diverge. Having these ground rules for communication is really key. because when you come in, then it makes it an even playing field, if you will. And so everyone knows that it's going to be a safe place where they can open up and talk about the ideas that they have and share what they would like to see. And again, mapping that current system, identify opportunities for improvement. That's really, really important. Some additional tips for success, including measuring what you do. We need to measure results, because what gets measured gets funded. Share your success stories. Shout those from the rooftops, if you will. There's nothing better for building collaborations and building support for ongoing collaborations if people know about them, if you share what works. And that's also can be a good example for other jurisdictions to follow when you're providing your success stories to others. Again, this flexibility, it's really important to stay flexible, because circumstances may change, funding streams may change, a lot of things can change over time. But we need to work together and be flexible so that we're able to respond to those when things do change, or when there's an obstacle that comes up in the way. So be flexible. Don't be afraid to try something new, because this really is, you're creating a new system. You're taking both systems together, the state and the tribal system, you're bringing them together to create an interjurisdictional court, which is something new. It's also really important to plan for transitions of leadership and staff, because you will have transitions. You will have staff that leaves, you'll have judicial turnover. And so it's important to have what we call a warm handoff in these cases. Plan ahead for that. And then that way you have a transition plan. And it's even better if you have a staff person or a judge that's going to be leaving, if that new person can come on, and then that way there can be some overlap. And so when you have that transition from one judge to a new judge, or a staff person changes, they can have that warm handoff. And then that way the continuity of the program can go forward uninterrupted when these transitions happen. So that's really, really important to plan for that. There are lots of resources out there to build intergovernmental collaborations. So let's talk about some of these. There's some publications that are out there. There's one called Promising Strategies, Tribal State Intergovernmental Collaboration. It's a TLPI publication from 2024. Also, Intergovernmental Collaborations to Heal, Protect, and Find Solutions, Joint Jurisdiction Courts 101. That's a 2023 publication that TLPI put out. Then in 2022, there was Joint Jurisdiction Courts Needs Assessment Findings. And the needs assessment findings actually goes in, and it was interviewed all of the joint jurisdiction courts and programs, interjurisdictional programs in existence, to find out what was working for them and what they needed. And so a lot of things really were able to come out of that. That's a great resource. Some other resources that are out there are Crossing the Bridge, Tribal State Local Collaboration, and Promising Strategies, Tribal State Relations, and Promising Strategies, Public Law 280. That was from back in 2013 that TLPI put out. These are all great resources on intergovernmental collaborations. Some additional resources, including Tribal and State Courts, Strategies for Bridging the Divide. That was a Center for Court Innovation publication in 2011. And then there's a couple of law review articles that are out there, Building a Legacy of Hope, Perspectives on Joint Tribal State Jurisdiction. And this article really provides the perspectives of people that were involved in the very first joint jurisdiction courts in the nation that started here in Minnesota. And then The New Face of Justice, Joint Tribal State Jurisdiction, was the very first publication about joint jurisdiction, the courts, the programs that started in Minnesota, to talk about how those programs began, why they began, and some background information on that. So that's also a very good resource that's out there. And so we have some contact information if you're wishing to get additional information. And so we got the Walking on Common Ground site that is available. We have the site here, and also the information to contact Tribal Law and Policy Institute to provide training and technical assistance for starting interjurisdictional collaboration. So we want to thank you this afternoon for spending time with us, and wish you well with creating your own interjurisdictional collaborations. Again, there are many resources that are out there, And we just wanted to share a few of the best practices and the lessons that were learned from some of the courts that forged the way for those of you that may wish to create your own intergovernmental collaboration court programs. Thank you for your time. We hope you have a good day.
Thank you, Kori, for presenting this important topic during this webinar today. And thank you to the audience viewing this webinar titled Promising Strategies in Tribal State Intergovernmental Collaboration. If you have any questions, please contact us at Walking on Common Ground, WOCG@TLPI.org. Also, please take time to use the QR code on the screen to submit an evaluation on the webinar, as it will help us to create future webinars and will be greatly appreciated. To view this and other webinars from TLPI, please visit walkingoncommonground.org or visit www.home.tlpi.org to view the other publications that Kori mentioned in the presentation, as well as many other resources that TLPI has. Our next webinar in this series will be titled Peacemaking and Indigenous Justice in Tribal Justice Systems, and we'll give you more insight into the information that Kori presented today. And again, thank you for joining us. And again, thank you, Kori, for presenting on this valuable topic.
Thank you.